Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me today, and I have a wonderful guest who has built a beautiful community. So, Elle, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kat. I'm excited for this conversation and happy to be here.
Yes, me too. And we had a wonderful conversation beforehand about what you're doing with your community and how you built this up for women. But do us all a favor, tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Yes. So I am Elle Ballard, and I'm based in California. And I built the community that you're referring to, Women of the World Network, for women in business, multinational women in business. So we have women from different countries from all over the world. And I think about more than 23 countries representing.
Wow.
Between our membership and between our, yeah, very exciting, between our book authors and members
Yeah.
over the years. And yeah, we have our podcast, Empower Global Women in Business. And so we have kind of two things inside. We have the business support for women in business, and then we have life support now as well, that we have recently added for conscious living. And I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yes, definitely. And definitely something that I feel like we need to be aware of, especially when we're in this space of leading ourselves in our own business, is that life is definitely intertwined with everything that
Yes.
you do, whether it's corporate or the entrepreneurial space, but definitely the entrepreneurial space, because especially we as women, we are really good about multitasking and bogging ourselves down and then forgetting that we need to also handle life as well. At least that's how I did it for a while.
Yes. Absolutely, exactly. Same here. Same here. Yeah, it's just being busy and then realizing that the busy is just not enough.
Yeah, and there's never enough time, right? So it's
Yeah,
this could have got done and that could
exactly.
have got done. But so then
Hmm.
what got you in the space of wanting to create something like this, creating this global community that you've got? What sparked this or what
Yeah.
came from this?
Yeah. Great question. So I'm originally I was born in USSR, and which at a time was a closed space and country. I came here over 22 years ago and finished a BA and worked in marketing. Great career. I built a great career back at home as well before I came here. But I really was searching for more, for just that piece of it where again the busy didn't do it for me. And I came to live here in America, just build beautiful family life and everything in the business life. But then I've realized, after so many certifications, after the MBA and the this and this and this, I remember just, driving and thinking, is this it? Like, why am I not still fulfilled? Why am I still missing something here? Um, why I'm just not uh, fulfilled with everything I have done so far? And that's where I think the missing part is how life and work we do and the passion work all interconnected. So I wanted to create something that talked to my heart and who I am, the community to support women, to give voices to women, to express um, themselves. And like I said, I came from a closed, a country, and having the voice, sharing the voice. So we did the books. We have four multi-author books that we published. We have the podcast. We have speaking opportunities in the community. And I just really wanted to build a business. But I was looking, it took me a few years to really find what is it that talked to my heart and who I am. And
Mm.
all these ideas on paper, and I want to do this, and maybe this will be good, maybe this will be good. And that was after I finished my, MBA and the business school and everything. And um, but this really talked to my heart, supporting someone with a similar journey in life, doing similar things, or facing similar challenges. And so that's where the Women of the World Network was born.
Oh, I love it. And what's really
Thank you.
interesting too is I was just listening to something the other day and they were kind of talking about the same thing where they really felt like they had everything in life, right? All the materialistic things, the and all the certifications and all the things
Yes.
to make them feel, validated and smart and like, I can conquer the world. And yet there is always like this hole that I feel like we are always trying to fulfill. And we forget that it's that other component that we're searching for, that purpose, that drive that we're really looking for that feels a lot more natural, especially once you get in the groove of it, right? So it can
Yeah.
feel hard in the beginning. And I'm curious to know, is that kind of what came out of, the other piece and component that you added in on the conscious living and the lifestyle piece as well?
Exactly. Exactly. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Because, and you, right, like, you're so right. Like, I just spoke with somebody, and this wheel of ambition, right? So, like, we feed this ambition, which is nothing wrong. It's good to have the goals and everything, and we should. But in the pursuit of it, we sort of forget like what is our true voice, or what
Mm.
is I truly want. Sometimes it's maybe we heard somewhere that we supposed to do this, and after all of this we forget what makes us tick or happy. And the conscious living part of where we opened is exactly about that. It's for professional people, women, for professional women, for women entrepreneurial leaders, as well as women in building their careers in professional world, or maybe women in transition. So the conscious living is really on supporting women day to day, having conversations of what is on our hearts, what is bothering us, what we are happy about, and everything. Having this space that uh, we can trust and calm. When we're talking about preventative health, women health, which is very different from men health, and
Yeah.
all those things we do that in the conscious living, side of things, and I add dance to it as well, the embodiment part as well. So,
Oh,
yeah,
I
it's
love
fun.
that. Wonderful. And for anybody that's listening that maybe isn't necessarily familiar with like the term conscious living, right, or embodiment,
Yeah,
how would you kind of describe those to people to help them kind of understand?
yeah. Great question. Yes. So, conscious living is what I mentioned earlier. Sometimes when we choose something to do, it could be our true want, or it could be a should that we heard somewhere, and maybe we always thought we have to do it, but really, do we have to do it? So, conscious living is choosing to live a life that really on our terms, according to my wishes, according to my feelings. And so we talk about feelings. We actually have a webinar coming up on holistic life planning, where we really take the time to plan all of the life areas and just really stepping into them consciously versus um, just because or. just because we are busy, 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 and this is another
Mm-hmm.
thing on a list that we need to check off. No, we don't necessarily need to do that. We just really need to, because this then will give us, once we are consciously present in all of the life areas, we have the space and the energy, um, and we are fully aligned in our life in all of the life areas, and that to me, this to me is living consciously with our own personal, with my own personal truth and who I am.
Mm, I love that. And just so that, for the audience, when we talk about this too, when you think of consciously living, right, what we mean a lot by these terms too is like you were saying, we live in a busy, busy, busy world, right? Go, 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 next thing, next thing, next thing. And you're not necessarily consciously aware of a lot of the things that you're doing. You're in such a habitual state or in this,
Yeah,
I don't know, like this robot mode, this mode where like we know we need to get it done, right? We come home, we cook dinner, we wash dishes, right? Like we don't even really think about it. And that's why we're able to kind of talk and have conversations and do other things while we're getting this stuff done. But we also fall into this space and this pattern of, like you said, how everybody else has told us that we should live. And I think that for women, that's a huge thing as well, especially when it comes to
yeah,
your
hmm,
career or getting married at a certain age or having children at a certain age. And it's like, no matter the space that you turn or what you decide to do, there's always some that's like, oh, but you didn't do this, or oh, you decided not to do that, or oh, well, when are you going to take care of this? And this is something that I think just, society as a whole has kind of dumped onto everyone. And I know that there are men that feel the same way as far as getting married and having kids and raising
yeah,
families and stuff like that. But like you were saying, having the ability to choose what it is that you want to do and like throwing that societal norm out can be some of the most freeing things that you've ever done. I mean, if you think about the world now,
absolutely.
before it was that women stayed home with the children and the man was the one that worked. Well, that's not necessarily the way things can work in our society, right? We're
Mhm.
needing a two income household. And so we're starting to see a lot more women that want to work. I was one of them. I never wanted to stay home with my kids. My mom
Me
was a stay-at-home
too.
mom, which was wonderful,
Yeah.
but I knew from a very early age there was no way I could stay home with my children if I wanted them to live. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't in me. I enjoyed working. I enjoyed being a part of society. I enjoyed brainstorming and doing all these things. And there's neither one of those is right or wrong, but I think that that is something that a lot of people get stuck on is we're thinking from this other perspective or one that's been drilled into us because of our upbringing or because of who we've been around or just what society has kind of told us. And unfortunately, we get stuck in these. We're searching for the next thing, for the next certification, for the next thing that can teach us, for the next thing to fill that hole. When in reality, it's because we're not consciously aware of how we want to live our life. We have been searching for it, but yet we've
Yeah.
still been living on somebody else's path. And I do feel like we get to this space where we're like, what the hell? Like, what do I do
Mhm.
now? What do I do next? Right? I mean, my kids are 21 and 17. This is a whole nother phase of my life, right? Where it's like, okay, they don't need me as much. I should be focusing more on the things I want to do. Like raising them has not been the priority. Now it's like counseling and coaching and walking them through life, but
Yeah.
now it's their turn, right? So it's a whole nother shift. And now it's like, okay, what do I want to do? And I don't think that we ask ourselves that question enough because we get so inundated with everything else people are teaching us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I am so thankful and grateful that I was able in my life to be a stay-at-home mom and to build a career. And I had that time where I could really see whether I want to continue. Say, a couple of years I was staying at home, and I did enjoy it. But my big realization came, and again, it's nothing wrong. I admire people who choose to stay there, but for me, my personal experience is when I started building my passion, the life that I want for myself, how I want to be present with my kids when I am with my kids, and being present in my business when I'm in my business, and knowing exactly what I want. I'm giving a good example to my kids that it
Mm,
is okay to follow my heart desires. It is. They have the permission to be who they truly are, to really be present in their own lives who they are,
hmm
because um, by seeing, because I'm doing it, and I feel this is how I chose to do it for me. And the other thing I want to mention about the conscious living, when I have looked at all of my life areas, when I did the planning and seeing where we do this holistic life planning, I've realized that I'm spending so much time in the business building and this professional world. And that was the part where once I looked at everything I'm doing, and if I didn't do this exercise, I probably wouldn't realize how much time I'm actually spending at the expense of other things. And
Okay.
that's where I started adding more dance. I want to go back to learning French, things like that. I want to travel to additional countries, like things like that that really enrich me and help me grow. Not only the business building gives me a lot of joy, but there are other things that I want to do. And so that's the
Yeah.
part, once I actually looked at the big picture in my life, that helped me realize. And sometimes I think we don't even realize until we look at it,
Yeah.
from like take a couple steps aside and just kind of look at it, how I'm doing it and what I'm doing.
I love that. Now, and you said exercise too. Like, are you saying that you kind of like sat down and wrote out different things within your life that you were wanting to focus on, or what did that look like? Because now I'm like really intrigued because I love this idea, and I'm a very visual person as well. So I love kind of
Yeah.
like writing the stuff out and kind of overlooking all the things. I've done that a lot with seeing where I was and like where I am now is like my little friendly reminder. So like I'll go back through pictures and things like that, and then like old ones will pop up from like 10 years ago. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I think about where I was there and like where I am now. And I'm able to kind of compare and see the difference. And then, for me, it allows me to kind of have that moment of spacious and understanding of like, look how far I've
Yeah.
come and look at the direction that I'm going, especially when I get in those days where, everything feels like it's going right, but for some reason you just feel like blah. And it happens, right? Like that's just part of the cycle. So, but you're saying you have an
Yeah.
exercise where you kind of write these things out.
Yeah, we do an exercise and we basically look at all of the 9 areas of our lives. And so these 9 areas of our lives, they fall under the 3 areas that the format in that we have in our conscious living community, which is free, fulfilled, and fabulous. And so on under freedom, under fulfillment, and under fabulous, we have each of the three. And then the exercise we do is when we look at each area, what we are doing currently today, where I want to be. And the important part to me is how I'm feeling about things I'm
Mm,
doing. And another important part for me is whether it's a want or a should. Should I do it, or really do I really, really want to do it? And so
mm,
that distinction definitely is important part of this process that we use. Um, and that's where, when I did that exercise for myself, that's how I realized, wow, like I'm doing this. So when I look at each of the 9 areas of my life, I looked how much in the business building and professional at the expense of the other areas, because we all have only
mm.
24 hours,
Yes.
and family and a day, 24 hours a day. um but yeah, and so that's where it was important for me to, and that's part of the conscious living concept to me, where we want to be present to be fully fulfilled. And that's what I've learned as well, after I had that realization for myself.
Ah, I love it. And
Yeah.
there was a space where you said in here that it was really what you feel. And I found this really interesting.
Mhm.
And I love this because several years ago, when I started my own journey of healing and working through things, one of the things that my coach kept hitting me with was, how do you feel? Where do you feel it in your body? And I was so
Yes.
disconnected because of the abuse and the stuff that I had gone through that didn't make any sense to me. Like every time she'd be
Yeah.
like, where do you feel it? I'd be like, I don't know. And she would make me just kind of sit there. And what I think is really interesting is when I think of what you were saying, which is that you want to feel it. the only way that I know to describe it for those that are listening is, if you think of a memory, if you think of a memory, something that you enjoyed, maybe it's a memory with your kids. Usually, when you're thinking of that memory, or even when you're speaking about that memory, you're not just sharing it like you're reading a book, right? You're sharing it, but at the same time, it's like you can feel your heart get full, or you feel your eyes tear up because it's a special moment. Like there's a feeling that is attached to it that you can feel in your body. And that was something that I didn't fully understand when it came to looking at what it is that you want in your life. And now
Yeah.
it's something that I work on embracing, right? When I talk about things that I want to do, or I speak to the direction I want to go, I don't just speak about it, or I don't just state it as if you're reading something. There is a story that is with it. And with that story that I am retelling to myself, there is a feeling that is attached to it. When I decided that speaking to law enforcement and university students and things like that is what I wanted to do to break the stigma of domestic violence. It wasn't a
Mhm.
statement that I said, there was a feeling that was attached to it. I could feel myself standing on that stage and seeing what people were getting out of that. I could feel how people were connecting with what it is that I was saying. And so I always found this really interesting
Yeah.
because I think that that comes along with, feeling and visualizing, which again were like
Hmm.
really weird concepts to me. And I love your thoughts on this, but they were really weird concepts to me for a really long time. Like, what am I visualizing? It hasn't happened. Like, this doesn't make sense. But what's really interesting is when I tied it to the way that I tell the story of something that I've been through or done with my kids, I noticed that there were feelings that were attached to that. And the more that I could speak to what it is I knew I wanted to do, and I let that feeling come with it, that was what kind of gravitated me towards like, okay, this is definitely a direction that I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you brought up that example because our body can tell us based on the next steps that we can do, right? Based on how we feel about that next step or that next decision, whatever it is. And the body holds a lot of wisdom. And so if we tap into the wisdom of our body, we can get a lot of answers from there. And that's the reason I also use dance embodiment. And so we use that in our program in all those three big umbrellas that I mentioned, Free, Pop, and Fabulous. Depending on what we are talking about, we use different type of dance modality, which is very simple way, but it's really the goal and purpose behind it is not to really do the dance itself, but to get the feeling in the body
Ooh,
that it generates, right? Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's where we get a lot of answers based on who we are, and it's really if once we tap into that, it's we can get a yes or no. And same with visualization. I love how you said that because if we just say the words, what we want to happen in the future, um, it can happen, of course, but I think it's so much more powerful if we put the feeling behind those words, like we really feel the smell of where we are, the breeze or whatever. Like if we are like if I'm standing on the ocean, like I'm feeling it, I'm embracing it, what I'm seeing with all my senses, and so I think that's just even so much more powerful to
hmm.
bring that vision to life. So I love
Yeah.
how you mentioned the realization of kind of the feeling.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like I said, I know that I was very disconnected with that for such a long time. And every time that somebody would talk about it online or my coach would bring it up, I'd be like, I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make sense. But what I have realized is kind of going back to what we were talking about the conscious and the unconscious space that we live in. We tend to live in this unconscious space where we're doing things habitual. We're doing it in such a habit form that like we know what we do. We know we get up, we know we do this, we wash our face, right? Like we have these to where our brains
Yeah.
don't really even have to think about it. But because of that, there is this disconnection. And the same thing happens when you are going through traumas and stuff like that. For me,
Mhm.
I had to disconnect from it because I had to be able to protect myself because in my situation, showing emotions meant some form of punishment
Mm,
or, being knocked down or something like that, right? So you get to the point to where you almost protect those feelings, but because of that, you kind of keep them in. And when you keep them in, you start to kind of
yeah.
disassociate from them. And that's really what I had realized that I had done. So when I had the ability to sit down in certain moments and be present with what it is I was speaking about or what it is that I was doing, I realized that I literally had shut out my emotions for so
Mhm.
long, and my body was still feeling them, but my brain was just not picking up on those signals. And so one of the things that I did that I thought was really interesting, I was following a psychologist who had a lot of childhood abuse. And so she talks a lot about some of the things that she did growing up and the things that she's learned. And for whatever reason, I
Mhm.
really resonated with what she was talking about. But she did this thing to help her come back to the present moment instead of just flying through her day like we all tend to do. And so what she did was every day she would set random alarms on her phone throughout the day, like 5, 6 times.
Mm.
And anytime that the alarm would go off, she would stop for 2 to 5 minutes. And in that moment, she would go through her five senses. So, what did she see? What did she taste? What did she
Wow.
smell? What did she feel? Like she went through her senses. But what she was doing was basically, in my personal opinion, kind of like recalibrating the brain and the sensors and the feelings to actually be able to link back up. And I thought it was one of the coolest things. And what was really interesting is I enjoyed that so much that when I decided that I wanted to test out meditation, which for me had never been a thing I was able to do because I just could not sit still long enough. My brain went in 50 different directions. But when I took what it is that she did there and I used that to start my meditation, that changed the game. So, what I
Mm.
love to do is one of my favorite things to do is if I decide that I want to meditate, I usually try to go outside to do it. If at all possible, that's where I go. And then what I do is I focus on every single sense that I have, but I have to label 2 to 5 items before I move on to the next one. So that you
Oh,
really have to sit
yeah.
and
Really
feel
have
it,
to stay
right?
with it.
Yeah. And
Love
it
that.
worked
Yeah.
really, really
That's
well,
great.
especially when I would save what I hear for last, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're heightening that sense. And then I'd be like, oh, I can hear a bird here, and I can hear a bird back here. And oh, I hear the tractor that's down the road. And so, but then I would get so lost in it, and I would just, it's amazing how it creates this sense of relaxation to the point to where all of a sudden I didn't even realize that I was done explaining all of my senses. I just knew that before I knew it, 10 or 15 minutes had passed, and I was like, oh, that was amazing. Where did the time go? Like it was one of the coolest
Yeah.
feelings, but it was one of the ways that I was able to, I don't want to say control is the right word, but a way for me to get the brain to like get all of the jitters out and then be able to come back to what it is I wanted to focus on. And it was one of the coolest things. So, anyway, tip for everybody out there. It's one of the things I really enjoy
It's
doing that's helped
great.
me tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah. Great idea. Such a great practice. And yeah. And I love the all senses. And I love that taking the time to actually do that clears a lot in the mental too.
It really
Relaxes the mental
does.
space. And then, yeah. Yeah, I like that. And outside, being outside.
Oh
Yeah, sounds
yeah, that's
wonderful.
I
Yeah.
love the outside, but I love the dance thing as well because I'm a huge
Yeah.
component of music. Like I love music. So I know
Me
that there are
too.
some times where I
Yeah.
literally will just go take a drive like 10 or 15 minutes down the road just so I can play music on blast and just listen to it. And that's like one of my favorite things. And dance always comes along with it. I know there's a lot of people listening, right, where you're like cleaning your house, but the music's blaring, you're like dancing with the mop while you're but
Yeah.
there's something about that that is so
Something.
relaxing
Yes.
and so energizing, even though you're doing a household chore. And so I love
Yeah.
that you incorporate this dance piece into getting the body to understand what it is that you do want to do versus the should, which is really, really cool to me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so cool because I think when we dance, we get outside of our heads. We spend so much time in our heads during the day. We make so
Yeah.
many decisions. Someone just I heard somewhere thousands and thousands, like 30,000 decisions a day or some crazy number. And so many decisions a day, all like in our head. and it's go go go. It's from one thing to another. We have responsibilities, we have different areas of our life that we need to cater to, and it's all in our head. And so when we start moving our body, when we start dancing, I love the putting it, if we're really busy, I love putting it when we're cleaning the house or when we're moving out of the house, doing a little dance with the body where we move the body. And it's great, especially if I was sitting prior to that, right, and working on my computer or something,
Mm-hmm.
my neck and the back. But it's magical because we get outside of our head and into our body, and even just doing simple steps with arms and hands and legs, and just turning around, or maybe like I was showing yesterday with someone, just doing circles around, just doing simple, starting very simple, will
Okay.
just help us, just gets us moving. And then I always get some insight, some new idea when I just disconnect for a little bit and put the
Mm-hmm.
music on and put the dance and just start dancing. I just feel so great. And there's the joy that comes, the emotions that come with it. And by the way, the joy is great when dancing, but when we are not so joyful, because we do have different days, and that is okay. If we are, if we're feeling sad, or if something didn't go according to what we planned, it's nice to dance through that too, right? And think Rumi said, I dance when I'm happy, I dance when I'm sad. It's such an awesome exercise to me, and I've been doing it for so long. I took a few years break, but I've done a few different types of dancing, and I just, yeah, danced yesterday night. I did ballroom, but yeah, different types of I used to do
I love
belly
it.
dancing. So it's just so good for us. And yeah, for that feeling and just being in my
Mm-hmm.
body, just being present. And so that's another part of it, practicing the being in the present, not in the future, not worrying what's going to happen in the future, or even if we're not worried, maybe we're just thinking about something, planning something,
Mm-hmm.
um, or thinking about what happened in the past, right? Like, and so the other thing that helps is the dance just brings it back to the present, and for me, just being with myself in the present and just enjoying. Yeah,
Oh, that's wonderful. So if anybody got this message today, you need to go sing and dance. No, I'm just kidding. But you're right. Moving your body and
yeah,
like getting out of whatever funk that you're in or whatever
yeah,
situation that you're in. I know sometimes it's one of the reasons why I have a sit stand desk is so that I can stand up and I can kind of move when I'm doing things so that I'm just changing the rhythm of the body. And it does kind of break things up, especially if you're kind of
yeah,
stuck on something. So I think this is
exactly.
a beautiful
Hmm.
way to just help us get back, like you said, get out of your head and kind of get back into the body. People that love to work out, that's another great way, right? Because
Yeah,
you're focusing on that. Like the physical space is so good for us. And I think that we've been taught to sit at a desk for 8 and 12 hours, and we aren't doing a lot of things, hiking, being outdoors. Like there's so many things that when you're doing a physical activity, the way that it really
yeah,
does kind of shift. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to get rid of it completely, right? We all have, like you said, we have down moments, we have states that we kind of get stuck in, but it can lighten the mood enough to where you can tell that you're feeling a certain way, but it isn't bogging you down to the point to where like you don't want to do anything, right? Or at least I feel like that's how it's kind of worked for me as I've started working on it. And like you said, practice is a huge component of that one as well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and by the way, any exercise, just any movement. Yeah, you mentioned hiking. I love yoga. I do. My goal is twice a week yoga, and
Nice.
it's just a great thing where I do a several hours of dancing. If I'm doing like something like a showcase, yoga is great, like to stretch the muscles and everything. But there's so many wonderful options today
Hmm.
um, that are out there. Yeah, picking something that really talks to you, and taking the time, starting small with small maybe time intervals, and then increasing it. Yeah, It's a key.
Definitely. Oh, I love it. Okay, so I want to go back really quick because I know we're getting
Yeah.
close to time. I kind of wanted to go back a little bit. When we were talking about your community and the things that you've done. You said that you've got 4 books within the community, and I'm pretty sure you were in the process of writing your own the last time
Yes,
that you and I talked.
I
So
am.
kind of give us an update on that and what like all of those components are about so that people can just kind of get a little bit of an insight to the community.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So in the community, we have the business networking leg where we give voices to women in business, to professional women. We have accountability space right now as well. Every Monday, it's very structured where we are, come together. We're accountable to each other, what we're working on. Great space to sort of hold each other accountable and moving along towards our goals, whatever they are.
Hmm.
And we split that into business and personal as well. And then we have podcast, Empower Global Women in Business podcast, where we interview I've spoke with some most wonderful. I love doing this, conversations. Just always learn something. And it's just a beautiful space, giving voices, sharing their passion. And then we published 4 books. So these are multi-author bestseller series. I'm taking a break this year because I'm working on my own solo book, which I have. This is my very first one. I've never done one. Um, yeah, very exciting, but it is a journey. So I'm doing that one this year. But we did publish 4 multi-author books, which so exciting because we typically if your listeners go to the website womenoftheworldnetwork.com, and then in the programs we feature the books or in our shop there. So each book will have the country flags,
Okay.
typically several countries featured, and we different themes as well. So we've published just a stories book, then we've published the recipe and storybook, which that was an interesting addition because that connected the story that happened in life to the recipe for life or recipe for like a cooking recipe. So that
Oh.
was an interesting spin. Yeah, that was an interesting addition. We had Women in Money published as well. Let's see. So we have 4 of them. I'm forgetting one. Um, but yeah, so all of those are listed on the website, and yeah, it's a project with putting the book together, and there are a lot of moving pieces, right? But every time we do it, it's just it's such a beautiful piece of art, just the voices, and every time I read someone's story, it's amazing. These lives are so beautifully lived, and people are sharing. I want to do mothers book, maybe
Mm.
mothers, busy moms and grandmoms book, and maybe we'll do it next year or the year after in the community. But yeah, yeah. So that's what's out there for
Oh,
sure.
I love that. And then you also host in-person and online events as well, right? I mean, like you
Yeah,
are.
so we do. Yeah, yeah, we do. So as part of the community, right now we do pop-up events, we call them. So we
Okay.
come one day to a location. So we had California in March. We just had Hawaii in Honolulu in May. It was a one day, beautiful space, beautiful people. It was amazing. And then we will probably do one in October in Texas this year. I'd
Nice.
love to do more of those and maybe even open internationally as well.
Oh,
But we'll see. So yeah, this year we'll be doing 3 of those. Yeah.
I love it. Well, I think it's
Yes.
beautiful, Al. I mean, I think that you've created
Thank
a
you.
wonderful community. And, I always feel like it kind of goes back to what it is that we were hoping that we had. And we know that there are so many other people that are feeling the same way. And then you were sparked this idea to create this space for others. And now look at the things that you're doing for other people. And I think that it's wonderful to be able to create a space where not only that people can be a part of and can follow, but where they also feel like they have their own voice, they can share their own opinions, we can grow as individuals and grow together. And I think that that's something to remember, when you're looking
Yeah.
at a space to be in or a community to be a part of is, are we creating this space where we all collectively come together and enjoy being different? Or, is this a space where it's a little bit more regulated and people are kind of the same and be aware of that because we're all looking for a space where we feel validated and we know that other people have
Yeah.
felt the way that we are, right? And when we step into that space, we're going to have a place where we do feel like we can be an individual and we can grow in that direction and get away from all of the shoulds that have been put
Yeah.
on us.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. I love that so much. Yeah, because it's just so important, I think, to when we truly can fearlessly just step into that version of ourselves. It's and this spaces like this, and there are so many wonderful communities, of course, but spaces like ours, we provide the the safe environment to do so, and to give permission to everyone to be able to express ourselves. Yes, and thank you for today. This was just a wonderful conversation.
Oh, of course, you are so
Thank
welcome.
you
So,
for
Elle,
having me.
do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience with, a quote or a piece of advice or anything that you would like to end with?
Yeah, I think if something based on what we talked about, just looking at one's life. And if your listeners are listening to this right now, just looking their life and just looking as a big picture and seeing maybe something sparked as they listening to our conversation today. Maybe there was an idea that came up or this question that came up, whatever came up, I would just encourage to follow up on that. Um, and just really go deeper what that could mean for that person. And if this enriches their life somehow, I'm all for it. Or just really enriching the life of themselves, because first and foremost, once we feel ourselves, then we give others permission, including our kids. Our kids are watching us, so
Yeah.
they can follow and do that as well. Or future generations, grandkids, and so on. Yeah, and thank you again for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So, I'll tell everybody one more time
Yes.
then where they can find you, how they can follow you, how they can be in your world.
Yeah, absolutely. lballard.com is my website, and they can get to Women of the World Network from there as well, or womenoftheworldnetwork.com is a website for our community as well.
Perfect. And of course, we'll make sure we have all that information in the show notes. We'll make it super easy for you to be able to connect with Elle
Yay!
and be a part of her community. So thank you again, Elle, so much. I love talking with you.
Thank you. Same here.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kat.
wonderful. And to everybody else out there, I know that there was something that sparked when you were listening to this. Maybe it's something that's been calling you for a really long time. Maybe this was just a reminder that you needed, that it is time to be present. It is time to get out of my head. It is time to get back into the body and focus a little bit more on me. Whatever it is that you felt called to, do me a favor, take a moment, think about it, maybe write about it. Imagine what that space may look like. Journey down it, even if you're just visualizing and getting the idea, because for some reason, something tugged at you a little bit. And I think it's time that you pay attention to. I know that it was for me several years ago, and I am so glad that I took the leap and I will never turn around and go back. So I am encouraging you to take that leap or take that tiny little step today to just see why you felt pulled by whatever it is that we were speaking about. And then, of course, until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable